All right, let's break down one of the single most controversial moments in modern sports history. We're talking about the final lap of the 2021 Formula One season. What really happened? Why did it become such a massive debate? And how did it end up forcing permanent changes on the entire sport?
This is the sound of a championship turning on its head. That raw, emotional radio call from Mercedes boss Toto Wolff to the race director Michael Masi was broadcast live to millions. It perfectly captured the shock and the fury of that exact moment. But to really get why he was so upset, you have to understand the stakes.
You couldn't write a script like this. The entire 2021 season was this epic, year-long dogfight between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. And somehow, impossibly, they show up to the very last race in Abu Dhabi completely tied on points. It was the absolute simplest, most high-pressure setup you can imagine. Whoever finishes ahead of the other is the world champion. That's it.
And for almost that whole race, Hamilton had it in the bag. He was cruising. But then, with just 5 laps left, everything changes. A crash brings out the safety car. And this is the pivotal moment. Red Bull makes a huge gamble and pits Verstappen for fresh, super fast tires. Hamilton has to stay out on his old ones to keep the lead. Now the big problem? There are 5 slower, lapped cars stuck between them. At first, race control says they're staying put. But then, they make this stunning reversal and let only those 5 cars get out of the way. And just like that, it sets up a one-lap, winner-take-all sprint for the title.
So how on earth could one single decision be so explosive? Well, it all comes down to the FIA's own rulebook and how 2 different articles were interpreted under absolutely insane pressure. This thing instantly went from being a car race to a legal drama fought over procedure. So everything, and I mean everything, hinges on the very specific wording of this one rule, Article 48.12. It's got 2 really critical parts. First, it says any lapped cars should be allowed to unlap themselves. And second, it states that the race will restart at the end of the following lap. Okay, so remember those 2 things, the word any and the phrase following lap, because they are the absolute foundation of the entire fight that came next. The second that checkered flag fell, Mercedes was on it, lodging 2 official protests. Their whole argument wasn't that they got outraced. No, their argument was that the race itself wasn't run according to the rules as they were written down. So let's break down exactly what they were arguing. Okay, protest number 1. Mercedes argued that the word any in the rule actually means all. Since not all the lapped cars on track were waved through, just the ones between the leaders, they said the procedure was flat out wrong. And then came protest number 2, and this was really their killer point. They argued that because the instruction was given on lap 57, the safety car should have stayed out until the end of lap 58, which was the following lap. And if that had happened, the race would have finished under yellow flags and Lewis Hamilton would have been champion.
You can really feel what it was like inside the car from this radio call. As Hamilton sees Verstappen on brand new tires suddenly appear in his mirrors, he immediately feels like the rules have been bent. His message just shows that real-time shock, that realization that the procedure he knew wasn't being followed and it was about to cost him a world title.
So what was the other side of the story? What was the defense? Well, race director Michael Masi and the Red Bull team came back with a completely different interpretation of the rulebook. One that basically prioritized a spectacular racing finish over sticking to the exact letter of the law. See, their defense rested on 2 other articles in the rulebook. Article 15.3, which gives the race director overriding authority over the safety car, and Article 48.13, which says the message, safety car in this lap is the final definitive signal for a restart. So Masi's argument was essentially that these 2 rules gave him the power to manage the situation as he thought best, allowing him to bypass the specific sequence in that other rule, 48.12. And beyond the strict rules, there was this other argument, the spirit of racing. The race director's whole goal was to honor a long-standing agreement among all the teams, and that includes Mercedes, to do everything possible to avoid a championship being decided behind a slow-moving safety car. As Red Bull's Christian Horner put it, the philosophy was always, let them race. They basically argued that Masi just did what was necessary to make that happen. The battle on the track was over in a flash, but a whole new fight was just getting started. It moved from the tarmac into the steward's office and then exploded into a full-blown investigation by the sport's governing body, the FIA. Suddenly, the very integrity of Formula One was on the line.
So here's how the procedural side of things went down. Mercedes' 2 protests were thrown out that very night. They immediately fired back, filing their intent to take the case all the way to the sport's highest court. But then came a twist. They agreed to withdraw that final appeal, but only on one condition. that the FIA would launch a full, transparent investigation into exactly what happened.
This one line from Mercedes' official statement really explains their thinking. They pretty much framed their decision as a move to restore trust. For them, it wasn't just about trying to overturn one race anymore, it was about working with the FIA to fix the system so this could never, ever happen again. In their words, they had lost faith in the process itself.
About 3 months later, the FIA's report finally came out. And it was a bit of a mixed bag. It did clear Michael Masi of having any bad intentions, saying he acted in good faith, but it also admitted to human error that was caused by the insane pressure of the moment. The report also called out the teams for constantly lobbying on the radio, and maybe most importantly, it conceded that the rules themselves were just too vague.
So if there's any silver lining to all of this, it's that this massive controversy forced real, concrete change. The FIA basically had to admit the system had failed, and they set out to rewrite the rulebook to get rid of all that gray area and to better protect their officials from that kind of pressure.
You're not going to believe this. The most direct and important fix was ridiculously simple. That whole debate, the protests, the months of anger, it all came down to a single word. The FIA changed the rule from any lapped cars to all lapped cars. With that one simple edit, the ambiguity that caused the entire firestorm was gone. Just like that, the procedure was made crystal clear.
And the changes didn't stop with the rulebook. There were some huge structural shakeups. Michael Masi was removed as race director. A new virtual control room, kind of like VAR in soccer, was brought in to give the new race management team more support. And in a direct response to the chaos we all heard, that open radio channel that let team bosses lobby the race director was shut down for good.
So the rules were rewritten, the processes were made stronger, but that night in Abu Dhabi still leaves us with this huge, fascinating question. In the heat of the moment, with everything on the line, can you ever really write a rulebook that completely removes the human element? The pressure, the mistakes, and that simple desire to just let them race. It's a conflict that sits right at the very heart of all sports,